G'day, ZiggyD here, and in this video I'm going to give you guys a quick look at the gameplay in the new tower defense action RPG hybrid, Deathtrap. This comes from the developers of The Incredible Adventures of Helsing. It's set in the same universe, and it's based on the minigame that was found in those two games. It was so popular that they decided to make a standalone for it. I'm just going to give you guys a look at a mission here now that we're in the full game. I'm playing on the mercenary. This is a bit of a leveled up character, so I'll be able to show you guys some different skills and some different towers and tower strategies. This is one of the many different types of maps. There's kind of like there's crystal fortressy type maps. There's ones that are out in the wooded highlands. There's some that are in like steampunk style factories full of robots. So there's a pretty good variety in the overall sort of maps, and they stay pretty interesting. I'll give you guys a review on the game sometime in the next few days, hopefully. But I thought I'd give you guys a look at the gameplay for now, in case you were thinking about picking up the game. So the first thing we want to do before we want to start just plonking down towers randomly, we have 700 essence here we can spend on towers to try and defend our base. And this is, you know, if you've played tower defense games, you know what's up. You can see on the map here, you can see these spawners, you can see lines that the enemies will travel, and then our defense point. This is a relatively simple map. They'll start at a few different points, and they'll travel a few different lines. Each wave, however, more lines will be added, more spawning points will be added, but in this map, it's still pretty simple because there's one central defense point. Some maps will have multiple defense points. But before we want to get started, you want to sort of inspect the map, give it an idea of the location of tower and trap build points, the location of teleporters. I can use these ink portals to teleport around quickly if I need to maneuver around the battlefield to defend more quickly. And then I want to get a look at the actual monsters that are going to be spawning, so we can see each of the different monster types here. We can see what type of monster they are, what they'll be weak against, and also how many there will be. So we have some horde monsters, we have a couple of giant type monsters, and only one type of armored monster. The wave info tells me that there's going to be 5 rock golems. How many rock golems are we getting? Looks like we're not getting any rock golems here. We've got 5 horde type, we've got some flying giants, some more horde, and normal monsters. So mostly we're looking at hordes for this first round, so we want to build traps that are going to be good at dealing with those guys. So, my character as well has a specific sort of build and leans towards specific sorts of towers. We have, here's my character's gear and all of that jazz. I don't actually, yes, we can actually show you my skills, like my skill tree inside of combat, but basically I've focused on a lot of physical and mechanical traps and things like that, since I'm kind of a warrior and that's kind of my jam. So, I'm going to start off by building just your basic gun sentry tower here, and I'm going to upgrade it with a damage increase. And I'm going to upgrade it with a splash, so it's currently only single target, but I can add a 1 meter splash to it. And I'm going to add a slowing effect. This will help group up those horde monsters. So this is kind of like my forward tower, and this is just going to slow enemies down. That's kind of the idea that I have for it there. So that'll be just able to slow enemies down that come across both of these lines. You can get an idea of the range of it based on that radius circle just there. Now this is actually a unique type of tower. Different maps will have unique towers that spawn only on that map. This is a Whirlblade column, which has a small AoE but slows and damages enemies. It's a pretty effective tower. These sort of things, 40% slow is pretty effective. So for 150 essence, it's a bit pricey, but I'll go ahead and build it because it's kind of fun. And this is going to be obviously my most concentrated defense point just here. We have one mechanical tower, we have some mechanical ground traps, and we have some mystic ground traps. So there's different types. There's magic ground, mechanical ground, magic tower, and mechanical tower type build points. So this is going to be our most concentrated defense here, since this is where all points are going to converge no matter what. So I'm going to go ahead and something like a blast furnace would actually be pretty effective here. That would be pretty good at dealing with hordes. However, I have a different strategy in mind. This like sprays out fire in a circle around the area, and since enemies are going to be traveling on this point, it's a pretty effective idea. But my particular strategy I'm going to go for here, let's get rid of that map for a second, is going to be to build a physical damage type weapon with splash. So I'm going to invest in a gun sentry just here. Slowing, not a bad idea, but mostly what I'm going to be going for is area damage. I'm going to actually max out my area damage and my actual damage as well. Now this is costing quite a bit of essence, but this should work out. And then what I'm going to do is going to build acid traps just here, which you can see what they're effective and what they're weak against. These guys are weak against horde type, and these gun turrets are not particularly strong against horde type, but the splash is going to make them quite strong against horde type. Now the most important thing is this acid geyser here actually gives vulnerability against physical damage, so I'm going to build these acid geysers, and as enemies sort of start to converge and walk over these acid geysers, they're going to take splash damage from the acid geyser, and the gun sentry is going to mow any enemies down that sort of make it past these acid traps. So that's kind of like my fallback point just there. Now I only have a little bit more essence, so We have a pretty strong side on this side because we have a World Blade column there, but nothing on this side, only this one trap. There's another potential kill point here, but I think what I might do is I'm going to build some archers. I have, I can build summon type, this is actually a summon type ground trap, not a mysticals, these red ones over here. But this is a summoning point, so I'm going to build archers here. I might be able to get like one upgrade here. What can we give them? I'll just make it so some extra archers can spawn. Maybe I'll give them a slight AoE as well. Now these guys also deal physical damage, so any enemies who make it past get splashed by the acid trap are also going to take extra damage from the archers. Now the archers will start spawning once the actual wave starts spawning. So we know where the enemy is going to spawn from, so we're going to start here, and I'm going to start the battle, so that we can sort of weaken them up a little bit before they even start to get to the traps. Now we've got a few horde type monsters here. I have an AoE ability that I can act as kind of like an aura that deals damage over time to all enemies in the area and freezes them. You can see it's very effective against horde type monsters, and that's kind of like the way I built my character just there. Another strategy I have is, say that this is a fire guild trap, enemies take damage as they move over it. What I can actually do is do this ability to pull them back over the trap, forcing them to go over the top of it again. Now some enemies, while I've been showing off things, have slipped past a little bit, some of them killed by the World Blade trap, and only one archer has had a chance to spawn. They do take time to spawn, but I have a freezing teleport ability which can buy my traps some time to kill these guys just here. And of course I can do some of the killing myself as well. Looks like all these horde type guys are pretty cruisy you're dealing with. You can see not many of them are going to make it through that World Blade trap, which is pretty fantastic, and actually pull some of them over into the World Blade trap as well to sort of just be a little bit more nasty to them. Now it looks like we've got a flying giant type over here, the Harpy Temptress. These take a lot of damage from the gun turret, and you can see it getting worked down very quickly there. Also with the damage from my weapon, which I've got a pretty strong weapon as well. It does pretty good damage. So first wave down, easy peasy. I don't think this will be a particularly hard match at all, but it'll sort of be able to show some of the mechanics for you guys. So we can take a look at the wave info next. We've got another giant type, we've got some more hordes. This time, however, we do have some armored enemies. Now, I don't have too many things that are good against armored. These sentry turrets are actually weak against armored, so they'll take a long time to kill those. And what will actually happen is the armored guys will tend to soak up the fire from the sentries, and all the hordes will manage to get their way past. My acid geisters are pretty good against armored, but these are kind of far back, and that's like leaving things to the last moment, right? So I'm going to want to try and maybe put something somewhere else. So I can get something like a spear trap, which is good against armored. I do love spring traps, but a spring trap here doesn't make much sense. But I might go a spear trap here. There's a convergence point here. You can see another spawner has been added if we take a look at the large map here. And the rock golems we can actually see are going to come from here. 2 rock golems are going to come from here. So do we have any coming from the other guys? We have some rock golems coming from there, and none coming from this side. So we have 4 rock golems, and all 4 of them are going to be walking here. So this is basically a perfect spot to put this spear trap, which is going to deal a lot of damage to those rock golems. Now it does have a rearm timer of 4 seconds. So if a horde monster goes past, sets off the spear trap, and then, you know, dies on it, and then the rock golem comes, he might actually not get hit by the spear trap. So we can actually help manage that by killing off the horde things or pulling them out of the way and away from the spear trap, so the spear trap can deal damage to the armored enemies, because they are quite tanky. What else can we do just here? We have still a fair bit more essence. What I might do is build my second archer point here and just make this a really powerful kill zone. And we can also invest in upgrading some of our other talents on our archers as well. Or we can upgrade the physical vulnerability on the acid geisters as well, making them more take more damage from this sentry turret just there. So we'll go ahead and do that. So you can see there's different ways of upgrading them. I can create a poison cloud that lingers. And I can just increase the damage as well, like add a poison dot effect. And that's a really good strategy if I'm going to stand here and fight monsters on top of the acid geyser, because they'll continue taking poison damage. Let's go ahead and start the next wave. I'm feeling pretty confident, guys. I'm feeling pretty confident. So one random Rusaka came through for some reason. That's not much of a horde if he's going to come through by himself. You can see some of that classic blood splatter that was shown off in some of the Deathtrap trailers, if you guys saw that. Just like that. I have a pretty interesting sort of blood gore model just there, which can be a little bit wild at times when you hack through a massive horde of enemies and blood just splatters everywhere. I love this trap as well. It's one of my favorite things about this mission. Let's teleport through those guys, freeze them up. All these hordes are going to get cleared up pretty easily by all of the powerful traps we've set up in this area. So what we're going to do though is, let's try and, let's actually pull some of these guys over here into the sentry turret, and they can get wrecked by that thing. Looks like some are starting to get past a little bit. Looks like we're gonna be okay. These little horde monsters will also go for me, so I can distract them. I can like cause them to follow me into the traps. Some enemies, there's 3 different levels of AI it seems. Some enemies will pursue you no matter what, they're just kind of dumb enemies. You can see the rock golem there took a big chunk of damage from the spike trap. This one doing so as well. These guys otherwise are pretty tanky though. So some enemies will follow me, like endlessly. Some enemies will follow me a little bit, try and attack me if I'm nearby, but then try and get back to their path so they can push forwards and attack your base. And then other enemies will just ignore you no matter what and just go straight for the base. Often bosses fall in that 3rd category, but not always. Alright, so this particular round has gone pretty cruisily. We can see the 2 rock golems here came out pretty late, which is not very helpful for their strategy. If I were the dungeon master there, I don't think we can pull these. Oh, we actually can pull them back onto the spike trap. So that's obviously a pretty effective strategy just there. And then we can help work them down. The real problem with these armored enemies is not so much armored enemies by themselves. As you can see, I'm exceptionally tanky on this character. I built very tanky so that I can stand there on traps and kill enemies. That was the strategy I employed. The problem with those guys isn't that they're like tanky, it's that they draw fire away from other enemies, and if you get a bunch of horde enemies slipping by because the armored guys are taking all of the fire, that can be a bit of a problem. Now over here we have some horde and normal type, we have some giants coming from the left hand side. That's kind of not too much of a problem because the World Blade will take care of them. We actually have glacier golems and rock golems coming from here, and some rock golems coming from this side. So this side is actually getting worse and worse for armored type enemies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a lightning pillar, which is strong versus armored as well. And this turret or tower is pretty interesting. You can increase its range firstly, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then what you can also do is add extra charge storage, and the way that this works is over time it'll store up charges, and then once it has a bunch of charges, you can see the charge just there floating around, it can actually expend them all really quickly to attack very rapidly and deal a lot of damage to an armored target. Now, if like kind of horde monsters are just trickling through and eating up the charges as they spawn, this tower is not going to be as powerful. So again, it's with this type of trap, it's to your benefit to try and clump enemies up or kill the horde monsters or something like that. Now what you can actually do is, because we know that there's going to be probably quite a few horde monsters coming through here. Looks like yeah, we've got quite a few horde monsters coming through there. We can thin them out a bit maybe, and oh, this looks like a perfect spot. So let's go ahead and put a lava grill, which is strong versus horde monsters, because essentially just roast them before they can get there, and that'll probably kill off a good amount of them. And what we could even do is we could even slow enemies, causing them to stay on the lava grill for longer. This, if you're wondering what this here is an enhancer beacon. It enhances the damage of all turrets in the area. But I'm gonna just put some things in here to thin the herds a little bit. So a phoenix pillar is another good one that launches fireballs. I don't have any upgrades for these traps, but they will still thin out those horde type monsters. And I think I'm ready to move on to the next wave here. Looks like the first burst is coming down here. I could, no, there's no teleports here, so I'm gonna just use my apparently I didn't use my teleporter ability. I was trying to, but I failed. There we go. Our AoE ability there is quite powerful against those horde type monsters. My strategy that I was going for with this particular character that I've built here is around the level 20 something, was to have a way of clearing horde monsters quickly, and that was with this AoE ability, and then create powerful kill zones with traps. So set up a really powerful point with the trap and then keep enemies on top of it, and I can do that with my chain snare ability, which I can sort of like pull away from that lightning trap, because I don't want that lightning trap to expend all its charges on these enemies just here. So I'll quickly yoink them away, and I can actually do the same thing with these guys just here. I can pull all these guys over. I actually just straight up died because they're taking fire from the turret as well. But we can clear all these guys out. Looks like we've got a few armored enemies coming forward, so we'll get to see how our lightning turret here and the spike trap works on these guys, which are pretty effective. You can see the huge damage from that spike trap, and they're probably not going to make it too far forwards. It's nice to see a well thought out strategy coming to fruition where you can kind of just like, I literally just got my hands up on my head now. But missions certainly get a lot tougher, and there's some missions where you have to be on the ball, attacking the right enemies all the time, using all your abilities. And this is an earlier mission. I've gotten pretty good with this character now. So it's a bit cruisier, but there are certainly missions where you really have to be perfect or those enemies will just keep slipping through. Nonetheless though, this shows off some of the different strategies you can employ in this game, and the basic gameplay of it as well. Now, I have some other skills which I haven't been utilizing much. I'm going to use my vulnerability aura now, which causes all enemies to take more physical damage. Since there's a big pack going through this World Blade physical trap right now, and into the archers, they're going to take huge amounts of damage. And I can actually boost the damage of this thing up as well, so it's going to absolutely destroy that Harpy Temptress there. And the essence is rolling in, it's rolling in. Let's help work down this rock golem here. Now, if we actually stand here, the rock golems will attack us, so I can get him to stay on the spike trap, and the spike trap will reset, and then it will fire again and keep hitting him. So, thankfully, I'm very tanky, and this is the way I built. I built tons of life and regen, so I can just tank this guy endlessly and have the traps deal with him. But of course, I can speed things up a little bit with some of my own attacks, of course. And that'll be it for that wave. He actually froze me. Those ice golem things have a freeze on kill effect, which can slow you down, so you gotta watch out for that. Kill them with ranged attacks is a good idea, or let the traps take care of them. Sometimes there's benefits to letting traps take care of them as well. You'll actually get a higher score at the end if you get more trap kills rather than personal kills. And this character can do a pretty good job of that, so it's like it constantly chain snare enemies back onto traps. Otherwise, you can do things like this damage boost skill here. You can also put points into a side effect for it that increases the essence generated by traps as well. So if traps get kills, they generate more essence, which means you can build more traps. Now, do we have anything sort of different coming through this time? We have some more armored enemies, mostly just Horde and still the same sort of thing coming through. We do have a champion type, Lesovich, which I think these guys have an aura that causes their surrounding allies to take less damage. The most important thing I think this time is that an extra spawn point has been added, and this actually cuts past some of our strong defenses up here, so like obviously the defenses up here aren't going to do anything for this. They still have to get through here though, so they're probably still going to die, but we can find out what's going to come from here. It's going to be some Lesovich, which is just normal, they're not Horde type. We could put down a gun turret, would be pretty effective. I think the best strategy is probably going to be to put a turret down here. Now, how far is this grill gonna reach? That's not too bad. I reckon we can put that here. We'll put that grill there because they'll get burnt as they walk around all around that area, which should be pretty fun. You can actually put a fire vulnerability upgrade on these blast furnaces. I had another character using this strategy, and then if you have one of these guys burning the enemies and making them vulnerable to fire, then you have like a fire grill behind them. The enemies will take even more damage from the fire grill, which can be pretty effective. Now I have quite a bit of essence, so what we can do now is upgrade our strong defense points, so we know that all enemies are going to be coming through this point, so let's go ahead and invest heavily into all of these traps just here. So maximizing the damage that they deal, the physical vulnerability they offer, basically just spending all our essence here on making a very, very strong defensive point. There we go, that's all our essence. So hopefully nothing should get past there. Kind of sad that the archers die each wave, but they do have to respawn to stop you from just kind of waiting around for all the archers to spawn, I guess. Although you can wait for the lightning tower to spawn. An interesting thing though is there's another type of summon trap that will summon enemies based on enemies or mobs killed in the area, and archers actually count as a mob. So if you have one of these summon points near one of these guys, for example, and then but in between waves, the archers will die, and that will actually spawn a bunch of ghouls, which is pretty nice. So you can kind of be a little bit clever with your trap placement just there. These guys are a nice little group here that we can deal with just here. You can actually build traps during waves as well, so if you're seeing a place is getting too weak, like, oh, things are getting a little bit overrun over this side, I can actually just go ahead and quickly build a trap to help deal with that. And see that fire, that fire trap, just burning things down over that side. It's so satisfying just to sort of see everything going off. We got a little bit of essence, but not much to build much else up. I think I'll save it for the next round. Lightning Tower, unfortunately, has wasted most of its charges on hordes, but it looks like it's going to have a bit of a reprieve to build things up. Let's see what's coming out here. Some Lesovich. So let's, what we'll do is we'll let them crawl over the fire grill, and then we'll pull them back onto the fire grill, and they can have another turn. Barbecue. It smells delicious. Alright, these guys are going to not get through here. Look, the AoE from here and the AoE from here, absolutely brutal. I love these. This is probably one of my favorite traps in the game. Maybe second only to the spring traps. The spring traps are absolutely comical. Maybe I can just build one just to show you guys. Alright, let's build a spring trap just here, just to show. But not a very effective point. Here's the champion from earlier. Not a very effective point for it to be built. But it doesn't actually work on the large armored targets. These guys are too heavy for the spring trap. But against other enemies, it can actually throw them off ledges, it can throw them back onto another trap. If you have like a fire grill here, you can have the spring trap fling them back onto it. Apparently it doesn't work against the glacier golems though. These guys are a little bit too heavy for the spring trap. Oh well. We can pull them, we can still pull them over here though. Not too heavy for my get over here Mortal Kombat scorpion pull. Oh, there's the freeze. Looks like lightning turret will take care of it though. And that is the end of the wave. So we have the final wave now, which will have a boss. So we have, looks like a mixture of the same sort of enemies, a whole lot more though. And then there's going to be the Dreadful Queen, Harpy Queen, which is a giant type. So what else does it have? It actually summons flying enemies too. So it kind of summons its own hordes, and it's if this gets through, it'll deal 5 damage to the gate. So that can be pretty devastating if you let a boss through. As you can see, I got 20 out of 20 health on the gate there. Takes more damage from anything that deals more damage to giant, which is my gun sentry turrets. We can see where that's actually going to spawn from, I believe. Harpy, Temptress, Giant, Flying. I think that's that one. Dreadful Queen. Where is the Dreadful Queen coming from? Dreadful Queen comes from this right-hand side, so she'll actually cut by anything I build here. Maybe if I build something here, it would work. But I kind of want to build another fun tower and show you guys. The Olympus Pillar strikes an enemy with a thunderbolt that deals lightning damage to all enemies within 3 meters of the original target. The thunderbolt arrives a 2-second delay after the trap activates. It's so satisfying listening to this thing charge up and shoot, so I have to build one of those just for funsies. But otherwise, a good strategy for dealing with giant types and bosses is Frost Pillars, which is a concentrated ray that also slows the enemy and deals constant ice damage. This is pretty powerful, but if it targets the wrong enemy, it's useless. So you really need to pull away or clear up the enemies around the boss to get this to work, essentially. And what I can actually do is build like 2 of these guys here. And provided that boss, we can kill that boss early, we might be able to do something useful there. The spring trap, I'll just leave it there for funsies. Alright, that'll do. So the boss will spawn last, so we have a chance to deal with other things first. Well, they usually spawn somewhat last. Grill trap doing some work there on the that, and you can see the fireballs coming down as well. The best thing about those fireball towers is that if they deal, like, I think it's more than 25% health to the enemy, they'll actually knock the enemies over, which is really satisfying to watch. I want to see this, I want to show you this tower coming off. You saw the lightning strike just a moment there, but you'll get to hear that charge up in a moment. The range on them is pretty wide, you can see. They have a huge range, and there's the zap, and you get to hear that sort of charge up sound as well, and then the actual lightning bolt come down as well. It's quite satisfying. I haven't invested into those towers yet though. I don't have the upgrades for them just yet. Let's freeze those guys and they can spend more time frozen in the fire, which is unfortunate for them. You can see these ice beams do basically nothing against the armored type. They are actually weak versus them. But we can pull these guys over here and just kind of like, just mess with them a bit. I love just sort of messing with things with this. This is probably one of my favorite abilities in the game, the chain snare. So satisfying, just pulling things back into traps and forcing them to deal with the traps for even longer. We better clear up these hordes here. A few enemies are actually kind of gathering on this focus point here, which if enemies kind of get really clumped up, that can cause some issues unless you have like a lot of powerful AoE. That freeze. Alright, we can freeze those guys on the fire trap again. Sort of hit and run style. We can, once our AoE comes up, we can deal with these guys pretty quickly. Now you'll see the resource on my character, the mercenary, is rage, and the way that rage works is you get rage from killing enemies, or from dealing damage to enemies with your main attack, your strike. So I need to constantly fight if I want to use my abilities constantly, essentially. Get frozen. Alright, what do we have coming up here? Lesevich. These guys are just getting burnt on the fire grills and knocked around by the fire trap, which is so satisfying. I did have another strategy where I was fully upgrading everything fire and it was just so brutally effective against all horde enemies, but I kind of screwed that character up because I invested in the blast furnace, I invested in the lava grill, and I invested in the fireball mystic tower. The thing they all have in common is they're excellent against horde enemies, but pretty poor against armored enemies. And then I got to myself to some robot stages, and tons of the robots are armored, so my strategy that was like destroying for so long, all of a sudden was basically useless, and I had a really tough time. I had to do missions multiple times to try and work through and use a lot of towers that I didn't invest into. So you do need to kind of cover all of your bases, or have different strategies set up for different mission types. I can sort of distract these guys here while I take some extra damage from the lightning trap just there. Getting absolutely blended up. Will it blend? It's the new ninja blender. Super effective, quite clearly. We have another champion over here. I don't really see what this champion does special. Some of them have auras or other abilities. Mythical, poison damage, firebolt. I guess it's just kind of like a tougher enemy, I guess, in this case. Alright, how are these guys going? Let's yoink! Oh, what happened? I missed the other ones. Were they cloaked or something? That was weird. Oh, here we go. The boss.
It just keeps getting better and better.
Alright, those guys should go down to our towers. As you can see, this thing spawned a whole heap of little bat things, but I can clear these up with my AoE ability here. It's kind of perfect for these guys. Ground type traps will not hit flying, so all my ground traps are going to be useless here. But we can try and do other things. What have I got here? Anything that's good against giants from these ones? I do not. I have not seen a cannon sentry before, so I'm just going to build this for fun. That is awesome. I love the mechanics of it. The like art and design of like the steampunky sort of elements in this game is super rad. Now the ice beam things are slowing it down, but I'm going to have to do some work. Looks like the Dreadful Queen is not super tanky, and there goes the kill. So guys, this was a pretty easy stage, but as I said, this was an earlier stage. I just wanted to show some of the different strategies for you. Not particularly challenging. I can maybe give you guys some, like, look at some harder content if you want, but the game definitely gets challenging. If you play through on hard difficulty the entire time, it can actually, it always feels possible, but at some points you do have to do a mission like 3 or 4 times to try and get through of it, to like work out the perfect strategy to maximize your, maximize your, kind of your strats. Got myself some nice gear, hopefully. Got a few things, got a nice little chunk of gold. Alrighty guys, hopefully you enjoyed this look at the gameplay in Deathtrap. If you have any questions about the game, feel free to ask in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll try and put up a review for you guys sometime in the near future. That's it for now, I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.